With travel resuming and opening up in many parts of the world for Indians, there are still restrictions in place and conditions when it comes to vaccines and visa. Joining me right now is Mr. Walter Lindner, the German ambassador, who is going to speak to us about several topics and several things that will concern people looking at traveling outside of India, especially students. Mr. Walter, thank you for speaking to us.
It's good to be in the show, Shanaksiji, and it's good to
Thank you very much. I want to begin by asking you, when do you expect travel to resume between India and Germany, especially keeping in mind that the cases in India are on a sharp decline?
Well, I hope the sooner the better, because we all live since 1.5 years in these conditions of air bubbles, worldwide travel. If you travel these days, these airports are, like deserted, and it's just not good. We have to travel again. Now, as we have seen this 1.5 past years, this virus is going up and down. First wave, second wave. In Germany or in Europe we had the third wave. Now everyone is expecting or hoping that we don't see a fourth wave. In India they don't hope to see a third wave. Now they have mutations. Now there's a lot of movement and a lot of change and a lot of unpredictability in this. That's why it's difficult to say. I would hope that very soon we can lift the air bubbles, because people want to have some predictability. But it depends, of course, on the scientists, on the virologists, on the health experts, and they have to tell us when it's time to reduce these restrictions.
Right. Which brings me to the second question, Mr. Walter. The Delta variant and the various variants of the coronavirus have emerged as something of a concern and interest across the world. With the Delta and the Delta Plus variant also present in several countries in the world, the WHO has also warned of some restrictions, because it has recently said that Europe too is seeing a rise in the number of cases because of the presence of these variants, and the fact that within Europe there is a lot of travel happening. What would you like to say about this, especially at a time when there is still restrictions in place when it comes to India? India still can't fly out of the country in most parts of the world.
Yeah, true. Well, you see, worldwide the tendency of the numbers is going down. That's a good news. But of course there are some pockets where numbers go up again. And of course we have the factor of the vaccinations. Some countries are well ahead, some not so much. And so if there wouldn't be the mutations, if there wouldn't be the variants, we would be much closer to normalization already. Because, as you said, numbers in India, in Europe are going down mostly. But with these mutations, the danger is that the things we have achieved in many countries in the world, going down of the numbers and these things, would be endangered again through the influx of mutations in the countries. That's why there are a lot of countries in the world. I just saw it in Singapore, Sydney. They're locking down their places, Portugal, Lisbon and others, just to make sure that there's no influx of these mutations, because everyone is afraid of these mutations. So we have to balance. On one side, we want to have a free flow of tourists, of students and of researchers and of business people and all this. On the other side, we have to protect the local population, and this could be the Germans, but also the Indians who live in Germany, the foreigners who live in Germany. So with this balance between protection on one side, being very, very careful, on the other side opening up as much as possible, this is what characterizes every day of us, and that's what we do every day to see that we strike this balance. And I personally would be optimistic and say, well, if the tendency goes like this, there might be a chance by end of the year that we come into some much better times. But
right.
It's unpredictable.
It's unpredictable, like you said, but at the same time, experts and doctors in India are warning of a possible third wave of the coronavirus. Now, my question, sir, is that in the event if there is a possible third wave of the coronavirus, how does Germany plan on helping India? Or if you could speak on behalf of the EU, as part of a big member of the EU, how does Germany or the EU plan on helping India if that happens?
Well, first, let's hope that there's no third wave, but chances are that there might come a third wave. In Europe, there might come a fourth wave. And I mean, we as Europeans, as the whole world, helped India quite a lot during the second wave. So I hope things are now a bit more, better prepared. And so I think it's unpredictable if there's a third wave and how big it will be. So, and whether there are some other travel restrictions. Let's rather think positive. Let's avoid a third wave in India. Let's avoid a fourth wave in Europe. And for avoiding a fourth wave in Europe, we need travel restrictions still maintained. Once we have a chance that we see we can lift them, we will be the first ones to do that. But I would rather than speculate what will we do if the next wave is coming. I think everyone in the world has now to be prepared for the next waves. But on the other hand, let's not use the past tense when we talk about COVID. COVID is still there. It's still there in India, it's still there in Europe, and it's still there in the rest of the globe. And you have some countries where the numbers are going up. So I think we still have to be careful wearing masks, having distance, and try to get the vaccination process speeded up. And be careful with importing these mutations of the virus. That's why we need to ask everyone in the world to be careful still.
But just coming back on my question, is there a plan in place if that happens? How does Germany help on planning India?
Well,
India?
As I said, we will be helping as we did before. We will be helping also, but I rather help that we don't get a fourth wave or a third wave in India.
Touching upon the point that you made, that the fact that travel restrictions should be maintained. Do you believe that should be maintained? You just said that, with keeping in mind the mutations across.
Yes, I think most of the countries in the world are afraid of a new mutation. Call it the Delta Plus or whatever. It could have another name. Could have another. Most of the countries in the world try to avoid this. Even India would be trying to avoid it if there would be a mutation coming from another country. So that's now. What can we do to avoid this? Well, most of the European countries have imposed some travel limitations, restrictions, and we can lift them once the situation is better. But of course, even in these travel restrictions, we have a lot of possibilities for Indians to travel to Germany. Like if, of course Germans can travel, but also the family members of these Germans, but also people who have their residence in Germany, Indians and students, master students, whatever. Then people who, the family reunification, when you have your children or your family can travel back and forth, humanitarian issues. So there are and transit passengers. So there are quite a number of exceptions, but in principle we have to have these restrictions. Most of the European countries do have it. A few countries don't have it, but if you take the bigger countries like France, our neighbor, and Italy and others, they do have it, because I think it's important. We don't want to have increased numbers. People are now happy that the numbers go down. If we increase it through too early opening up, I think we ruin what we have achieved. So
absolutely. Which also brings me to the question on vaccines and visas, right? The two V's these days that people are talking about. When it comes to vaccines, now Covishield, how soon do we expect Covishield to be on that digital passport? Because we know European Union has something called as the Green Pass, which has only the 4 vaccines listed on it. The other question, part B to my question, is that India has 2 vaccines, one of which is not a WHO approved drug, which is the Covaxin. Do you think, or do you believe Germany can make exceptions, given that students going from India into Germany have been on a record, at least until last year? There are thousands of students who go to Germany every year to study.
Yeah, let's go step by step. Now there is this, indeed from now on we have an European vaccination pass, and as you said, there are 4 vaccines there, but all of them are WHO accepted, and we have decided yesterday, the German government, that we accept also Covishield as one of those. So this will be included there. Now Covaxin is a different case because it's not yet accepted there at the WHO. Once this will be accepted there and the process is, then is a different question. Then we come to the next step. But so far, those who are vaccinated with Covishield, like me, like you, like many others, we can use this vaccination in Europe. Now, this does not mean that you can travel to Europe. Correct. Because we have the travel ban.
Correct.
But for those who can travel, let's say the Indians who are master students or who are reunificating with their families, whatever, they can use the the Covishield and can have easier travel in Europe. They don't need to have a test when they go to a restaurant or a cinema or whatever. So once they're in Europe, they can use it. But it's not an entry card for going to Europe, because the travel ban still is out there. But it makes things easier once you are in Europe. And once the travel ban is over, then of course the vaccine is there, and it's accepted by Germany, and hopefully by then also by all the other European countries.
Right. What about the students going into Germany every year? We've seen that thousands of students go every year, and until last year there was a huge spike in that. At least it grew by about 20%. Do you think this pandemic is going to affect these numbers?
Well, first of all, we are very happy and proud that Indian students come to Germany. They come not only to study engineering and all these typical technical professions, but also other professions. They say the educational system is a good one, and it's free of cost. They offer also a lot of English classes in English, 2,000 courses of topics, but in English. So the conditions for Indian students are very good. That's why we have 25,000 students in studying in Germany. This is the highest number of all European countries, more than in the UK. One would think because of the language they would study in the UK. No, most of them go to Germany. No, we don't take it for granted. It's a very good asset. That's why we are very saddened that some of them, the beginners especially, are stuck here. They prepared everything, and this is very painful, because I see that we need them, we want to have them, and they want to go. Now that's why we have started from today on. Well, we now take all the master students and those who have a residence in Germany. We take also now from those who begin to study, we take their appliances for visa, so they can do the applications. And from today on, we take them. We can't process them yet because there's the travel ban, but it saves time. Once the travel ban is lifted, then the application is here already, and they save time. And meanwhile, they have to be a bit patient, have to talk to their universities to see they postpone and to do digital learning, whatever. But we do what we can, because we want to keep them. The decision to study in Germany is a good one, and we want to keep each and every one of them. But due to the COVID, which is not our fault and not the Indian fault, we are in a situation where we have to protect also our people in Germany, but also, keep Germany open for the students. So that's what we do, balancing. That's why we have decided today to open our visa sections for applications for the greenhorns, those who start studying in Germany.
Right. My final question to you, sir, is how do you think India has fought this battle, not once, not twice, but several times, with the lockdowns in place, with each state respective? How well do you think did the Indian government fight the COVID battle all throughout, since last year?
Well, as a foreign ambassador, I'm not here to give notes and marks and on the performance. I think the country as such, India as such, is a continent. And the challenges you have in India, with poverty, with the dimension of the country, and with the closeness of people in areas where you would have social distancing. How do you have a social distancing in a slum in Mumbai? You can't do this. Or the rickshaw pullers, how can you force them to use a mask? So the challenges in India are very special. So you can't compare it to many other countries in this globe. And in comparison to these challenges, I think India has done well, but of course, the scenes which we have seen in February, March, April were devastating. No one wants to see that, and that's why we jumped in and helped. And I think nobody has expected this second wave to be so violent. Nobody, not even us as foreign observers, not the government, not the opposition. No one has seen that. And I rather look into the future and try to avoid a third wave than looking back and saying, well, this was wrong, that was wrong. Lessons learned will be drawn by the government as we speak, and by the opposition, and by the media, and by others. but my job is more to see what we can do to avoid a third wave.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, Mr. Walter. I leave the last few words to you. What are your final thoughts? What would you like to say to students, to people, to Indians wanting to fly out, waiting for that travel ban to lift, and at the same time also being careful of the virus? What would you like to say as your last
first,
word?
Being careful, not thinking this is over. There might be a third wave, but try to be careful. Don't mingle. Don't group with many other people. Still be careful. It's much better. Be careful, but then. Once this opens up, then the whole world is waiting for the Indians out there. We in Germany, we need Indians. They are a big part of our, intelligence in universities and everywhere. You see a lot of very switched on Indians, and so is the case everywhere around the world. So I'm hoping everyone has still patience and sit here, be careful. But then once the day comes, go out there again, because we need you everywhere in the world.
And very soon Germany will be accepting fully vaccinated Indians if things go well.
Yes, exactly.
Just like Switzerland.
Like Switzerland, once the travel ban is lifted.
Yes, once the travel ban is lifted.
That's important.
So that was Mr. Walter, the German ambassador, speaking to us, telling us that to ensure that the virus doesn't spread too much, to avoid a possible third wave, a travel restriction is definitely important to be maintained, but also be hopeful at the same time that things get better, and that Indians too will be able to fly out of the country very soon. With camera person Rakesh Singh in Delhi, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.